Michael Aquino was an officer in the United States Army. He was a lieutenant colonel who worked in military intelligence and led work in psychological operations. Aquino proposes that a new form of psychological warfare, which he calls MindWar, should replace the old psyops. So let us begin with a simple name change, he writes. We shall rid ourselves of the self-conscious, almost embarrassed concept of psychological operations. In its place, we shall create MindWar. The term is harsh and fear-inspiring, and so it should be. It is a term of attack and victory, not one of the rationalization and coaxing and conciliation. The enemy may be offended by it. That is quite all right, as long as he is defeated by it. A definition is offered. Mind war is the deliberate, aggressive convincing of all participants in a war that we will win that war. The advantage of mind war is that it conducts wars in non-lethal, non-injurious, and non-destructive ways. Essentially, you overwhelm your enemy with argument. You seize control of all the means by which his government and populace process information to make up their minds, and you adjust it so that those minds are made up as you desire. Everyone is happy, no one gets hurt or killed, and nothing is destroyed. Ordinary warfare, on the other hand, is characterized by its lack of reason. The antagonists just maim or kill each other's people and steal or destroy each other's land until one side is hurt so badly that it gives up, or both sides are hurt so badly that they agree to stop short of victory. After such a war, there's lasting misery, hate, and suffering. The only loser in mind war are the war profiteers, companies and corporations which grow fat on orders for helicopters, tanks, guns, munitions, etc. Consequently, what President Dwight Eisenhower referred to as the military-industrial complex can be counted upon to resist implementation of mind war as the governing strategic conflict doctrine. Unlike traditional psyops, mind war begins far before troops reach the battlefield. In fact, strategic mind war must begin the moment war is considered to be inevitable. Every available medium must be used to draw the enemy's attention, and hostile nations must be struck before its potential soldiers put on their uniforms. It's not the military barracks that the specialists in mind war target, rather their homes and communities. Was the United States, Aquino asks, defeated in the jungles of Vietnam, or was it defeated in the streets of American cities? Another perk of mind war is that, unlike traditional propaganda, it relies on truth and moral superiority. The propagandist is most effective when telling half-truths, dissembling inconvenient facts to push a narrative. The mind warrior, on the other hand, must be deeply committed to his cause. His conviction that he's in the right is indispensable to his task. It is this conviction, his honesty, that will convince the undemocratic forces in other nations that the American way of life is superior. A rapport will be created between the mind warrior and his target, and the enemy will see that those he's told to fight are working for a nobler cause than the totalitarian regime he serves. Since mind war, unlike traditional propaganda, is anchored in truth, we shouldn't have any qualms about using it on American citizens. We read, mind war must target all participants if it is to be effective. It must not only weaken the enemy, it must strengthen the United States. It strengthens the United States by denying enemy propaganda access to our people and by explaining and emphasizing to our people the rationale for our national interest in a specific war. Under existing United States law, PSYOP units may not target American citizens. That prohibition is based upon the presumption that propaganda is necessarily a lie, or at least a misleading half-truth, and that the government has no right to lie to the people. The propaganda ministry of Goebbels must not be part of the American way of life. Unlike brainwashing or traditional propaganda, the goal of mind war is to get the mind to believe its own decisions, and to feel that it made those decisions without coercion. To be effective, whatever measures are used must not be detectable by ordinary means. Of course, the use of media is essential to such a project, but this is merely the sociological dimension, in Aquino's words, of the operation. There are, he writes, some purely natural conditions under which minds may become more or less receptive to ideas, and mind war should take full advantage of such phenomena as atmospheric electromagnetic activity, air ionization, and extremely low-frequency waves. You might think you didn't hear that right, but I bet you did, and in case you don't have your tinfoil hat on yet, Aquino describes each of these purely natural conditions in enough detail to turn the squarest of normies into a conspiracy theorist. Aquino notes that the human body communicates internally by electromagnetic and electrochemical impulses. Human sensitivity to electromagnetic fields can be shown, he writes, in the body's reaction to X-rays, infrared radiation, visible light spectra, and so forth. The Earth's electromagnetic field is regularly altered by such phenomena as sunspot eruptions and gravitational stresses, which distort the Earth's magnetic field. Under varying external EM conditions, he writes, humans are more or less disposed to the consideration of new ideas. MindWar, Aquino says, should be timed accordingly. One can't help but wonder if, in the 3 decades since the publication of Aquino's paper, tools have been developed to create conditions in the EM field that make a targeted population more susceptible to suggestion. Another footnote reads, an abundance of negative condensation nuclei, air ions, when ingested enhances alertness and exhilaration, while an excess of positive ions enhances drowsiness and depression. Calculation of the ionic balance of a target audience's atmospheric environment will be correspondingly useful. Aquino is careful to qualify that this is a naturally occurring condition caused by such varying agents as sonar ultraviolet light, lightning, and rapidly moving water. So it doesn't, he says, need to be artificially created. It is chilling, though, that he ends his treatment of this subject by stating that detonation of nuclear weapons will alter atmospheric ionization levels. Maybe this paper is only advocating the use of naturally occurring conditions to encourage a state in which targets are more open to democratic ideas. If you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. If you're suspicious, Aquino's footnote about ELF waves won't do much to ease your mind. He writes, ELF waves up to 100 Hz are once more naturally occurring, but they can also be produced artificially, such as for the Navy's Project Sanguine for submarine communication. ELF waves are not normally noticed by the unaided senses, yet their resonant effect upon the human body has been connected to both physiological disorders and emotional distortion. Infrasound vibration, up to 20 Hz, can subliminally influence brain activity to align itself to delta, theta, alpha, or beta wave patterns, inclining an audience toward everything from alertness to passivity. Infrasound could be used tactically as ELF waves endure for great distances, and it could be used in conjunction with immediate broadcasts as well. It's frequently claimed that America is a champion of Judeo-Christian values and civil liberties. If our military is conducting mind war on its own citizens, employing techniques so subtle, so diabolical as to make the mind feel that it made those decisions without coercion, it's hard to believe that our ideals are anything but empty rhetoric.
I had an opportunity to prepare a report for the U.S. Senate Intelligence Committee. I was asked to prepare this. And I wrote it in 12 days, as a matter of fact. It's being typed as we speak. And I'm going to read my introduction to you, which I think tells the whole story about what's going on. Here's what I said in the introduction of this report. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if anybody's going to do anything about it. Hopefully they will. Based on 28 years' experience and research, I have determined there are thousands of victims who have been targeted by an illegal U.S. government rogue criminal enterprise that is active 24 hours a day throughout the United States. A network of victims who work with me have reached the same conclusion based on 1, their personal experience. These are the people who have come to me. 2, the significant number of victims, thousands of them. And 3, the extent and intensity of the harassment. I'm talking about micro beams, I'm talking about surveillances, I'm talking about poison gas, everything, the evil that you can think of. It is far too active to be operated and controlled by private enterprise. Private enterprise goals are to achieve financial gain. These operations require extensive financing to operate with no return on the investment. I believe these programs are financed through illegal black operations